On today's episode of What's Going On with Shipping, Iran, pirates, and the FBI are boarding ships. I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So a trio of boarding or non-boarding operations in one case have taken place across the world. I want to take some context on each of them because each of them really unveil a different aspect that's impacting global shipping. So the first one deals with the MSC Aries. This is the vessel that was boarded by the Iranians outside the Straits of Hormuz as the ship was sailing from Saudi Arabia heading over to Europe. We talked about this in our last episode. According to Iran, they are saying that the ship was boarded for violating maritime laws. This is according to Iran's foreign ministry. The Revolutionary Guard seized the ship in a very dramatic fast roping operation off the vessel. The ship is now being held off the coast of Iran. Iran stated they were doing this in retaliation for the strike against their consulate in Damascus on April 1st by the Israelis. According to the Iranians, the vessel was diverted again, fast roped onto the ship, vessel seized, into Iranian territorial waters as a result of violating maritime laws and not answering calls by Iranian authorities. Should make a note that the ship was running dark on its AIS. Iran launched a series of barrage of missiles and explosive drones on Saturday. We're talking about over 300 of them launched by Iran against Israel. U.S. had moved 2 destroyers into the eastern Mediterranean, anti-ballistic missile destroyers that were used in defense. MSC Aries is being held along with its 25 crew. The ship is leased from Gordel Shipping, which is an affiliate of Zodiac Maritime. Zodiac, in turn, is partially owned by A.L. Offer, who is an Israeli billionaire. If you take a look, Tanker Trackers put this out today showing the position of MSC Aries. You will also notice that it is sitting there near vessels that Iran has previously hijacked. These include the Advantage Suite, the Niobe, and the St. Nicholas. The St. Nicholas has a unique history because that ship had been seized by the United States back when it was sailing as the Suez Rajan. The U.S. leveraged the owner of that vessel to divert the ship to the United States. It sailed all the way to Houston, Texas, sat there off of Houston, Texas for quite a while until it was eventually offloaded and released. The ship sailed into the Persian Gulf, changed its name, and everyone who had a brain should have known that the Iranians were going to grab this vessel. But they did after it loaded, and now the Iranians are sitting there with not 1, but 4 tankers that they're currently holding. And in each of these cases, they say these ships were violating maritime law. Ships are sitting there with their crews being held behind Bandar Abbas without much chance of them being released unless the Iranians decide to let them go. Next, we have piracy off the coast of Somalia, but this time it's a vessel that had already been captured. This is the bulker Abdullah. This shows you the image of the pirates coming on board Abdullah and taking her. Well, word comes out that she has been released. Her crew of 23 were released early on Sunday after a $5 million ransom was paid. According to one of the pirates, the money was brought to us 2 nights ago. As usual, we checked whether the money was fake or not. Then we divided the money into groups and left, avoiding the government forces. So this is a return to old-fashioned piracy that we'd seen happening off the coast of Somalia during the end of the 2000s into the 2010s. It had been fairly dormant. We'd seen instances of attacks against vessels, the Central Park, other vessels that were also targeted. We believed it to initially be an effort to support the Houthi in their attacks against shipping in solidarity with Hamas, but now it just appears that this is just piracy once again raging off the coast. So here, Abdullah has been released. Finally, story number 3 is the story of motor vessel Dali in Baltimore. So motor vessel Dali in Baltimore, the salvage has been going on. There's some great videos to follow. If you don't follow Minorcan Mullet, I strongly suggest you follow him. Captain Andy, who is down from Brunswick, Georgia, he had documented the entire salvage of the motor vessel Golden Ray, the car carrier that rolled on its side coming out of Brunswick. Well, he's up in Baltimore right now getting some great videos of the events. Minorca and Mullet, I'll have the link here in the show notes for you. But the report came out today that the FBI has opened up a criminal probe into the Baltimore bridge collapse. FBI agents boarded the cargo ship Dali to conduct court-authorized law enforcement activity regarding the crash. Now, the FBI is not saying anything about it, and I have to say that this, I think, is a big problem in terms of the investigation. So understand the U.S. Coast Guard and the NTSB did the initial investigation into the ship with a preliminary report due out in May. The fact that the FBI is doing this, and they're doing this in response to a court order, tells me that they're looking for culpability and criminal, potentially negligence in the death of the worker. We'll have a big problem when it comes to the issue of the investigation being done by NTSB, because what we're talking about now here is overlapping investigations. Understand, there's also an investigation being done by Singapore, the flag state for the vessel, along with the insurance company, which is Britannia P&I, doing it. So you're going to have multiple investigations going on. The NTSB will have public and open hearings about this case. If the FBI is investigating this for criminality, then they're going to be wanting to depose people, and there could be a question about whether or not people will be deposed in the NTSB hearings for fear of self-incrimination, because while the crew members on board are on board a Singaporean vessel, they do have the protection under the U.S. Constitution of self-incrimination if they're forced to come ashore and testify. This is going to be a big problem. I think this is being pushed by issues in and around Baltimore. This sounds like a local issue, trying to get a case being made here for it. They also want to catch the crew before the ship is taken out. I don't think the ship is leaving. I think even if the ship is freed up, the ship will be arrested, because ships under maritime law can be held for not just damages. We already know that the ship's owner has declared general average, meaning the cargo will have to share the burden for the ship salvage, but the ship will probably also be arrested to not allow the crew to leave, which means this crew may be on board this vessel for a prolonged period of time. So we've got the Iranians seizing vessels, we've got the Somalis releasing vessels, and now we have the US FBI going on board Dali and beginning a criminal investigation into the death of the workers up on the bridge concurrently with the NTSB. That's a lot going on. And I was just going to talk to you about the cruise industry, but that video will be pushed aside for another day. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit the super thanks button down below, or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly or yearly subscriber. Till the next video, Sal, signing off.